The envelope from my lawyer arrived on a Tuesday. Inside was the finalized deed transfer. $42 million for the office complex I'd built from the ground up. 30 years of 12-hour shifts, and my daughter-in-law still introduced me as the night janitor. I should have seen it coming after the third incident, but I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Robert Chen. I'm 67 years old, and for the past 5 years, I've worked the night shift as a maintenance supervisor at the Hartwell Corporate Center in downtown Seattle. Same building where my son Michael works as a senior marketing manager. Same building where my daughter-in-law, Victoria Hartwell, just made junior partner at Preston and Associates, one of the top law firms in the Pacific Northwest. The irony isn't lost on me. People see the gray uniform, the mop bucket, the building keys on my belt, and they make assumptions. That's fine. I learned a long time ago that a man's worth isn't determined by other people's opinions. My late wife Grace taught me that. She was a nurse for 40 years. People saw the scrubs and forgot she had a master's in public health. She never corrected them either. Let them underestimate you, Robert, she'd say. That way, when you prove them wrong, it's so much sweeter. I miss her every day. She passed 3 years ago, right before Michael married Victoria. The first incident happened 6 months after the wedding. Michael invited me to Sunday dinner at their new condo, a sleek 2-bedroom in the modern part of town, all glass and steel. Victoria had just made associate at Preston and Associates. She was riding high on her first big win in court. I showed up in my usual attire, clean jeans, a flannel shirt, work boots. I'd come straight from helping my neighbor fix her fence. Victoria opened the door, and I watched her face fall. "Oh," she said. "I thought you'd—" "Never mind. Come in." Michael was in the kitchen, oblivious. But I caught Victoria texting someone, then quickly putting her phone away when I walked past. During dinner, Victoria's parents called. She put them on speaker, a habit I'd learned she had when she wanted everyone to hear something specific. "Darling, how's the celebration dinner going?" Her mother's voice rang out, crystal clear. "It's lovely, Mother. Just Michael and I. And—" She paused, looking directly at me. Michael's father stopped by. "Oh, how nice. What does he do again? I forgot." Victoria's smile was sharp. "He works in building maintenance. Very hands-on work." Michael frowned but said nothing. I kept eating my pasta. "Oh," her mother said, and I could hear the dismissal in that single syllable. "Well, I'm sure he's very proud of you both. Not everyone can work with their minds, after all." I set down my fork carefully. "Actually, Mrs. Hartwell, I find that working with your hands teaches you things books can't. Like patience. And humility." The line went quiet. Then her mother laughed, a tinkling, condescending sound. Of course. We need all types in this world." Victoria changed the subject quickly, but the damage was done. I saw how she looked at me for the rest of the evening, like I was an embarrassment she had to tolerate. I left early. Michael walked me to my truck. "Dad, I'm sorry about that. Mom's just— she means well." "Victoria's mother or your wife?" He flinched. "Both, I guess. Victoria's under a lot of pressure at work. She doesn't mean anything by it." I patted his shoulder. "Son, people show you who they are. Believe them the first time." The second incident happened 3 months later, at the Hartwell Corporate Center itself. I was finishing my rounds around 10 p.m. when I saw Michael's office light still on. I knocked and poked my head in. He was hunched over his laptop, stress written all over his face. "Working late?" I asked. He jumped, then relaxed when he saw me. "Dad." "Yeah, we've got this huge presentation tomorrow. Victoria's firm is actually one of the potential clients we're pitching to." "That's great. You'll do fine?" "I hope so. Her senior partners will be there. She's been coaching me on what to say, how to dress, even how to shake hands." He laughed, but it sounded hollow. "Sometimes I feel like I'm not good enough for her world, you know?" I walked into his office, closed the door behind me. "Michael, let me tell you something. Your mother and I didn't raise you to be good enough for anyone. We raised you to be yourself. If that's not good enough for Victoria, that's her problem, not yours." He nodded, but I could see he didn't really believe it. I was about to leave when the elevator dinged. Victoria stepped out, carrying her designer briefcase, looking immaculate even at 10 p.m. She was talking on her phone. "Yes, Mr. Preston, I'll have those contracts reviewed by morning." "No, I understand the timeline. I'll stay as late as—" She froze when she saw me in the hallway. Her expression shifted so fast I almost missed it. Annoyance, then calculation, then a bright, fake smile. "I'll call you back, sir." She ended the call. "Robert, I didn't expect to see you here." "I work here, Victoria." "Right, of course." She glanced at Michael's office. "Is Michael here?" "Working on tomorrow's presentation." "Oh, good. I can help him prepare." She moved past me, then stopped, turned back. "Actually, Robert, while you're here, the third-floor bathroom has been a disaster lately. Could you make sure it's properly cleaned before morning? Some of our senior partners use this building, and I'd hate for them to see. Substandard maintenance." The words were polite. The tone was not. "I'll make a note of it," I said quietly. She smiled that sharp smile again. "Thank you. It's so convenient having you here, like having our own personal custodian in the family." She walked into Michael's office and closed the door. I stood in that hallway for a long moment. Then I pulled out my phone and texted my property manager. "Schedule maintenance review meeting. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. The third incident was the breaking point. Michael's promotion came through 2 months later. Director of Client Relations. See, huge step up. 6-figure salary. Corner office. He was over the moon. Victoria was ecstatic. They decided to throw a celebration dinner at Maximilian's, the most expensive restaurant in Seattle. Victoria insisted on inviting everyone who matters. Her senior partners, Michael's new team, her parents, selected friends from their social circle. Michael called me a week before the dinner. "Dad, I really want you there. This is a huge deal for me, and you've always supported my career." "Of course I'll be there, son." A pause. Victoria mentioned, "Maybe you could wear a suit?" "She bought one for you. Had it tailored and everything." I looked down at my flannel shirt, my work jeans. She bought me a suit. "She means well, Dad. She just wants everything to be perfect." "Michael, please, Dad. For me, I wore the damn suit." Maximilian's was everything you'd expect. Crystal chandeliers, waiters in bow ties, leather menus without prices. I arrived exactly on time, wearing the dark navy suit Victoria had sent over. It fit perfectly. I'd give her that. The private dining room was already filling up. I recognized some faces. Preston, the senior partner at Victoria's firm, several of Michael's new colleagues. Victoria's parents, holding court by the bar. Michael spotted me and waved me over. He looked happy, genuinely happy, and I felt my chest tighten. This was my boy, my son. I'd walk through fire for him. "Dad, you made it. You look great." "You too, son. Congratulations. You earned this." Victoria appeared at Michael's elbow. She wore a red dress that probably cost more than my truck. Diamonds at her ears, her throat. She looked at me, and for a moment, just a moment, something flickered in her eyes. Recognition, maybe. That I'd actually worn the suit. That I was trying. "Robert, I'm glad you could make it." She air-kissed near my cheek. "Why don't you sit over there?" She gestured to a table in the back corner. "We've arranged the seating to mix up the groups, you understand. Help people network." I looked at the table. It was separated from the main area, partially hidden by a decorative screen. The other seats were empty. "Where will you and Michael sit?" I asked. "Oh, at the head table, of course. With Mr. Preston and the executive team." She touched Michael's arm possessively. "This is Michael's night. He needs to be visible." Michael looked uncomfortable. "Victoria, maybe we could." "It's fine," I said. "I'll sit wherever you need me." I took my seat in the corner. From there, I could see most of the room, but they'd effectively hidden me from the main action. Like a embarrassing relative you couldn't uninvite but didn't want anyone to notice. The dinner progressed. Appetizers, wine, main courses. I ate alone while the main table laughed and networked. Michael kept glancing back at me, guilt written on his face. I gave him a thumbs up. This was his night. I could handle being invisible. Then came the toasts. Preston stood first, talking about Michael's impressive portfolio, his innovative strategies, his bright future at the company. Michael beamed. Victoria glowed beside him. Then Victoria stood up. She tapped her champagne glass, and the room quieted. "I want to say a few words about my incredible husband," she began. "Michael has worked so hard to get where he is today. He came from humble beginnings." Her eyes flicked toward my corner, then away. But he never let that hold him back. He educated himself. He networked. He understood that success in this world requires more than just hard work. It requires sophistication, connections, the right presentation. My hands tightened on my napkin. I'm so proud to be married to a man who understands the importance of upward mobility, who knows that we're not defined by where we come from, but by where we're going. She raised her glass. To Michael, a man who chose to rise above his circumstances. The room applauded. Michael looked uncomfortable, but he smiled and nodded. Victoria wasn't done. "You know," she continued, her voice carrying easily across the room, "Michael's father is actually here tonight." She gestured toward my corner, and suddenly all eyes were on me. "Stand up, Robert. Don't be shy." I stood slowly. "Robert works in building maintenance," Victoria said, her smile bright and sharp as a knife. "In fact, he's the night supervisor at the very building where Michael and I both work. Isn't that something? Some people might find it embarrassing, having your father clean the floors where you work. But I think it shows real character that Michael isn't ashamed of his father's occupation." The room had gone very quiet. I could feel the weight of their stares, their judgment, their pity. And Robert, bless him, he works so hard, mopping floors, fixing toilets, taking out trash. It's honest work. She emphasized the word honest, like it was a consolation prize. Not glamorous, certainly. Not particularly lucrative. But someone has to do it, right? We can't all be lawyers and executives. Preston shifted uncomfortably. A few people looked away. Michael had gone pale. "So here's to Robert." Victoria raised her glass toward me. "Who proves that it doesn't matter if you're a janitor or a CEO? You can still be proud of your children when they succeed, where you couldn't." The silence that followed was deafening. Then someone started a slow clap. Just one person, from the entrance to the private dining room. Everyone turned. A woman in her 60s stood there, elegant in a dark suit, flanked by two men in business attire. I recognized her immediately. Margaret Chen, my property manager, and the face of Chen Holdings LLC. "I'm sorry to interrupt," Margaret said, walking into the room with the confidence of someone who owned it. Which, in a way, she did. But I couldn't help overhearing that last toast, and I feel compelled to correct a few misunderstandings. Victoria frowned. "I'm sorry. Who are you?" "Margaret Chen. I'm the property manager for the Hartwell Corporate Center," she smiled. "The building where you work, Miss Hartwell, where you've worked for the past 3 years. Recognition dawned on Victoria's face. "Oh, yes, I've seen you around the building." "I'm sure you have. I'm there quite often, checking on our investment." Margaret walked over to where I stood. "Robert, I didn't know you'd be here tonight. Your son didn't mention the celebration was at Maximilian's when we spoke last week." "It was a last-minute choice," I said quietly. "Well, it's fortunate I'm here." She turned to face the room. "You see, I need to clear something up. Miss Hartwell just described Robert Chen as the night janitor, someone who mops floors and fixes toilets. And while Robert does indeed work at the Hartwell Corporate Center, that description is incomplete." Victoria's smile faltered. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Margaret said, her voice clear and firm, "that Robert Chen doesn't work for the Hartwell Corporate Center. He owns it." The room erupted. "Excuse me," Preston stood up. "What did you just say?" Margaret pulled out her phone, tapped a few times, then showed the screen to Preston. "Robert Chen is the principal owner of Chen Holdings LLC, which owns the Hartwell Corporate Center, along with 11 other commercial properties in the Seattle area. Total portfolio value, approximately $42 million. Victoria's face had gone white. That's not possible." "It's very possible," Margaret continued. "Robert built Chen Holdings from the ground up over 30 years. He started with a single small apartment building, worked multiple jobs to pay it off, then leveraged it to buy the next property and the next. He's one of the most successful independent real estate developers in the Pacific Northwest. Michael was staring at me, mouth open. Dad? The Hartwell Corporate Center, Margaret said, was his crown jewel. He bought the land 15 years ago, oversaw every aspect of the development, handpicked the tenants. Preston and Associates? She looked at Victoria. Your firm pays $42,000 a month in rent to Chen Holdings. Michael's company? $38,000 a month. Preston had pulled out his own phone, clearly searching for confirmation. His face told me he'd found it. But Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. Why does he work as a janitor? Maintenance supervisor, I corrected gently. And I work there because after my wife Grace died 3 years ago, I couldn't stand being alone in our big empty house. I missed having a purpose, a routine. Margaret suggested I oversee the night maintenance personally, keep busy, stay connected to the building I built. I find it peaceful, satisfying. I like keeping things in order. But you let me think. Victoria couldn't finish the sentence. I didn't let you think anything, I said. You assumed. You never asked about my life, my history, my work. You saw the uniform and decided you knew everything about me. Michael finally found his voice. Dad, why didn't you tell me? About the business? Michael, you knew I owned some rental properties. You just never asked for details. You were busy building your own career, your own life. I didn't want to overshadow that. I looked at him steadily, and I wanted to know that you'd succeed on your own merit, not because of my money or connections. The suit, Michael said suddenly. The suit she bought you. Cost $800, I said. It's nice, but I own 12 suits that cost 3 times that. I wore this one tonight because you asked me to, because I love you and I wanted you to be proud of me. Michael's eyes were wet. Victoria made a small sound. Everyone turned to look at her. She was trembling, her carefully constructed composure cracking. I didn't know, she whispered. No, I agreed. You didn't. But you know what you did know, Victoria? You knew I was your husband's father. You knew I raised a good man. You knew I worked hard every day. And none of that was enough for you. Because I didn't have the right job title, the right clothes, the right... What did you call it? Sophistication? Preston cleared his throat. Miss Hartwell, perhaps we should. Do you know what the worst part is? I continued, and my voice was quiet, but it carried. It's not that you looked down on me. It's that you made my son ashamed of me. You made him feel like he had to hide me, apologize for me, dress me up like a doll so I wouldn't embarrass you. That's what I can't forgive. Victoria's parents had gone silent. Her mother looked like she'd swallowed glass. I worked 12-hour days for 30 years, I said. I built a business from nothing. I put myself through night school, learned property law, management, finance. I raised a son who's kind and smart and successful on his own terms. And you reduced all of that to just a janitor. The room was so quiet you could hear the chandeliers hum. My wife Grace used to say, that character isn't what you do when people are watching. It's what you do when they're not. When you think someone is beneath your notice, that's when your true self shows. I looked at Victoria. You showed me who you really are, and now everyone else has seen it too. I turned to Michael. Son, I love you. I'm proud of you. This promotion, this success, you earned it. But I need you to understand something. I didn't build everything I have so that you could marry someone who's ashamed of where you come from. Your mother and I taught you better than that. I picked up my coat from the back of my chair. Mr. Preston, I nodded to the senior partner. It was good to meet you. I believe your lease is up for renewal in 6 months. My office will be in touch. His eyes widened slightly. The threat, subtle but clear, hung in the air. I walked toward the exit. Margaret followed me. At the door, I stopped and turned back one last time. Oh, and Victoria? That bathroom on the 3rd floor you asked me to clean? I had our maintenance team deep clean the entire building that night. Because that's what you do when you take pride in your work, whether you own the building or mop its floors. It's called integrity. I left. The following week was quiet. Too quiet. Michael texted me several times, asking to talk. I told him I needed space. Margaret handled the fallout at the building. Apparently, Victoria had called in sick for 3 days straight. Preston had personally visited my office to assure me that their firm valued their lease and hoped there were no hard feelings. I told him business was business. Their rent was on time. Their contract was solid. What happened at a dinner party had nothing to do with our professional relationship. He looked relieved and a little ashamed. Michael's company's management sent flowers and an apology note. I sent back a thank you card. Victoria's mother called. I didn't answer. 2 weeks after the dinner, Michael showed up at my house. Not the penthouse condo Grace and I had bought when Chen Holdings took off, but the old Craftsman in Ballard where we'd raised Michael. I'd moved back there after she died. Too many memories in the penthouse, and not enough of the right kind. I was in the garden when he arrived, Grace's garden, which I'd been trying to maintain with mixed success. Dad. I looked up from the roses I was pruning. Michael, can we talk? I gestured to the porch chairs. We sat in silence for a moment, watching the afternoon light filter through the trees. I left her, he said finally. I didn't say anything. I mean, we're separated. I moved out, filed papers yesterday. He rubbed his face. I should have done it sooner. Should have stood up for you that night at dinner. Should have stood up for you months ago, years ago. Why didn't you? Because I was weak. His voice cracked. Because I wanted to belong in her world so badly that I let her make me ashamed of my own father, of my own history, of myself. Michael. No, let me finish. He turned to face me. Mom used to tell me about how you guys struggled when I was young, working 3 jobs, eating ramen, saving every penny. She said you did it with dignity, with pride. She said you never complained, never made her feel like she married the wrong man, even when money was tight. I remembered those years. The exhaustion, the stress, Grace's unwavering belief that things would get better. I forgot that, Michael continued. I forgot that real success isn't about impressing other people. It's about being someone you're proud of when you look in the mirror. And I look in the mirror now, and I see a man who let his wife humiliate his father. I can't. I can't live with that. You love her. I thought I did. Maybe I loved what she represented. Success, sophistication, moving up in the world. But love isn't supposed to make you smaller, Dad. It's supposed to make you bigger, better. Mom made you better. Victoria made me ashamed. We sat in silence again. What will you do now? I asked. I don't know. The divorce will be messy. Her firm might make things difficult at work. They're one of our biggest clients. But I'll figure it out. He looked at me. I was hoping. Could I stay here for a while? Just until I find a place? I thought about the empty bedrooms in this house, the silence I'd been living with for 3 years. Your room is exactly how you left it, I said. Posters and all. He laughed, and it sounded like relief. A month later, I was doing my night rounds at the Hartwell Corporate Center when I found an envelope slipped under my office door. It was from Victoria. Inside was a handwritten letter. Her handwriting was perfect, of course, careful and controlled. Robert, I don't expect you to forgive me. I wouldn't forgive me either. But I need you to know that I understand what I did. Not just at the dinner, but for the entire time I've known you. You were right. I reduced you to a label because it made me feel superior. I needed to believe that my law degree and my job title and my family money made me better than other people, especially better than someone who worked in maintenance. The truth is, I was terrified. Terrified that I wasn't actually that special, that despite the fancy degrees and the designer clothes, I was just ordinary. So I looked down on you to lift myself up. I grew up in a house where love was conditional on achievement, where my value was measured by my report cards, my awards, my accomplishments. I never learned that people have worth beyond what they produce or earn, and I destroyed my marriage because of it. Michael deserves better than me. He deserves someone who loves all of him, including where he came from. You raised a good man. I turned him into someone he wasn't, and I'll regret that for the rest of my life. I don't know if this means anything, but I resigned from Preston and Associates. I'm going back to school for a master's in public interest law, working with people who actually need help, not corporations trying to avoid taxes. It won't erase what I did, but maybe it will make me a better person. I'm sorry. Truly, deeply sorry. Victoria. I read the letter twice, then filed it away in my desk drawer. 6 months later, the divorce was finalized. Michael had moved into his own apartment, closer to work. We had dinner every Sunday, sometimes at my house, sometimes at his place, once at a small Vietnamese restaurant Grace had loved. He was dating someone new, a teacher he'd met through a friend. She wore jeans and laughed loudly, and asked me about my work with genuine interest. When I told her I owned the building where Michael worked, she said, "That's amazing. Do you enjoy the property management aspect? Not why do you work if you're rich or why didn't you tell people? Just genuine curiosity about what I found fulfilling." I liked her. One night, after she'd left and it was just Michael and me finishing the dishes, he said, "I saw Victoria last week at a coffee shop downtown. How is she?" "Different. Quieter. She's working at a legal aid clinic now, helping with tenant rights issues. She asked about you. What did you tell her? That you're good? That we're good?" He dried a plate carefully. "She asked if you'd ever forgive her. What did you say?" "I said that forgiveness isn't the same as forgetting. That you can acknowledge someone's apology without letting them back into your life." I nodded. "That's wise. I learned it from you." He smiled. "Everything important I learned from you and Mom." Took me a while to remember that. We finished the dishes in comfortable silence. Later, driving home through the quiet Seattle streets, I passed the Hartwell Corporate Center. The lights were on in the upper floors. Late workers, like I used to be. The building looked solid, well-maintained, a good investment. But more than that, a testament to what's possible when you work hard and don't let other people's opinions define your worth. Grace would have been proud of it. Proud of Michael finding his way back to himself. Proud of me for standing up when it mattered. I pulled into the driveway of the old Craftsman house and sat in my truck for a moment, looking at the porch light I'd left on. Inside were pictures of Grace, memories of raising Michael, evidence of a life well lived. My phone buzzed. A text from Michael. "Thanks for dinner, Dad. Love you." I texted back. "Love you too, son." The envelope from my lawyer was still on the kitchen table. The finalized paperwork for selling 2 of my smaller properties. Semi-retirement, they called it. Downsizing the portfolio. I'd kept the Hartwell Corporate Center, of course, and the building where Michael's company was headquartered. But the rest? Time to let someone else have their turn building something. I'd worked hard for 30 years. Built something solid. Raised a good man. Loved a good woman. And I'd learned the most important lesson of all. Your worth isn't in your job title or your bank account or other people's opinions. It's in how you treat people, how you show up, how you choose dignity over pride, substance over appearance. Victoria learned that lesson the hard way. So did Michael. As for me, I learned it from a nurse who wore scrubs to work every day and never once thought she was less than anyone else because of it. I locked up my truck and walked into my house, turning off the porch light behind me. Tomorrow, I'd go back to the Hartwell Corporate Center for my night shift. I'd check the maintenance logs, supervise the cleaning crew, make sure everything was running smoothly. Not because I had to, but because I chose to. And that, I've learned, makes all the difference.